Welcome to Black Men Speak. I'm your co-host, the J.R. Stewart.
And I'm your co-host, the Tommy D. Duncan III, otherwise known as TD3. Jimmy, it is Wednesday, April the 23rd. No, it is not April the 23rd. It's April the 26th,
26.
2023, Jimmy. And if it is Wednesday night,
It is definitely Black Men Speak. And let's give a shout out to Liquid for providing our theme music. Also, if you haven't already, please hit that like button to help our numbers. Subscribe to the channel if you're not a subscriber. And also, if you're here watching the show tonight and every Wednesday, then invite a friend, spread the word. You don't have to necessarily do those in that order, but you need to get all three of them done.
Jimmy, we have an exciting show tonight, a packed show tonight. We have another exciting guest that we'll be bringing in to talk about Social Security, simplifying it, demystifying it, and addressing the questions that any of our constituents and or our friends have about Social Security. I know you and I may have a few questions on it ourselves, Jimmy, but we're going to have a couple of news briefs prior to that, Jimmy, and then we will get to our main show, and I am definitely excited as we always have. We have some of the best hosts and some of the best hosts, you and myself, and some of the best speakers out there.
Yeah, Tom, like I said, this is the most progressive show on internet, social media that you can find out there dealing with issues that are important to Black people.
Yes, yes, Jimmy.
Well, all people, really. These topics should be important to everybody, but specifically to Black people. So, with that
Yeah,
being said, Tom, let's get into our first segment of news. So, domestic, international. Let's talk about what's going on, some follow up stories, and then we're going to get to our guest.
sounds good to me. Well, Jimmy, I was, we have been tracking what's been going on in Haiti for the last several months.
Let's international news, Tom. Let's do domestic first.
oh,
Let's
you want to do domestic first, but then I'll
yeah,
let
let's
you lead on domestic then.
okay. Well, we have a couple of stories to follow up on. Breonna Taylor, the officer, one of the officers who shot
Mhm.
Breonna Taylor, the young lady was killed in a raid.
Cool.
And of course, we differ about who's all to blame, but
Yes.
that's another story. A cowardly boyfriend using her as a shield. But anyway, one of the officers who was responsible for her death has been rehired by the local sheriff department.
Mhm.
So once again, Tom, that just goes to show that we have to be very, very careful in these situations because it seemed like when we're in the grave, those who've pulled the trigger and caused our death get the chance to move on with their life. And this is not the only. There's a couple other stories of people who've been shot by officers in the news. One where I believe the officer was sentenced to 3 years in prison, Tom, and she served 16 months, and she's allowed to serve the remainder of her sentence at a family farm, with once a month supervision.
Yep.
What kind of sentence is that where you get to serve half your time at home?
Well, Jimmy, that is unfortunately the narrative of what goes on in this country when it comes to the value of Black life.
Well, all the more reason, Tom, that that's one of the messages here that be extremely careful when you're dealing with law enforcement. Try not to let a situation get escalated and get out of control, um, because you may not always get justice, or your family may not always get justice while you're dead or seriously injured. So we've been reporting on these stories far too many times, Tom. And it just seems like we Black people end up getting the short end of the stick when it comes to interactions like that. So let's do our best not to have them. But if you have to interact with law enforcement, do your absolute best to keep it in a calm manner. Do not let it escalate to a point where the officers have to pull a gun or their taser or to use deadly force. Because at that point, trust me, it is not going to work out well for you and your family and your loved ones.
And more important, that's why down ballot elections do matter. It's more than
Yes.
just voting for the president or the governor, but when you look at the judges, when you look at the DA, those decisions do matter. And so as a result, you have to make sure that you're making an intelligent decision.
Well,
That
Tom, just registering to vote and being part of the jury pool.
true.
You're thinking that you're getting out of being a juror because you don't have time, but what you're doing is actually leaving it up to others to decide the fate of a lot of people of the people who go through the criminal justice system. So
All right.
you
Like
vote.
you said,
Elections are important, Tom, like you just said,
right.
and the judges that you elect, very important.
Let's go to our next story.
What's the next story, Tom?
Well, I was going to go to either
Oh,
international.
sports. We'll save international for last. So we're gonna get
Yeah.
to Haiti. How about sports? Any sports news? What do you talk about?
Well, give me the biggest sports news right now. Of course, we're in the throes of the first round of the NBA
Yes,
playoffs, and so everybody kind of has their own team that they're looking after. Obviously, your team, the Mavericks, are not in the playoffs right now,
Tom.
but
Why do we go from championship, Western Conference championship, to now you making the playoffs this year?
hey, you got to talk to the owner about that. But one thing we do know, the Nuggets did beat the Timberwolves last night,
Yes,
and
congratulations
so
to the Nuggets.
they've won the first round of the playoffs. The Denver Nuggets, and then it looks like the Phoenix Suns have also won their first round against the LA Clippers as well, and they're
That was
on.
I was surprised about. I thought that was going to be a much tougher series.
Yeah, and there are a couple of them that are on the line tonight, Jimmy. The Knicks and the Cavs are playing right now. The Knicks are up 3-1. The Lakers and the Grizzlies are playing tonight.
I
The
think the
Lakers,
Lakers are up 3-1.
yeah, the Lakers are up 3-1, and the Heat and the Bucks. And surprisingly, the Heat are up 3-1 against the team with the best record in the NBA.
Yes, and
So
an MVP candidate.
absolutely. So
So
that's our sports news. But with more sobering news, Jimmy, we have to take a few minutes to honor the late, great Harry Belafonte, who went to visit and be with our ancestors eternally just yesterday at the tender age of 96.
yes, Tom. I think we have a clip that you found for us. So let's play that real quick, and then we'll pick it up on the backside.
Okay.
Work all night on a drink of rum. Daylight come and we want go home.
Belafonte died of congestive heart failure at his home in New York. He was 96. He recorded more than 30 albums and was so popular he was invited to play at venues that had previously been off limits to black singers. He was also an outspoken civil rights activist and friends with Martin Luther King.
Jimmy, Harry Belafonte, probably not known by some of our Gen Zs or millennials, but when you consider how he quietly and not so quietly opened doors for so many people during a time where we did not really have guaranteed rights in this country. He was born in Harlem, New York City, New York,
Yes,
during the early parts of the Harlem Renaissance. Of course, had Caribbean roots, was a calypso singer, opened many doors where, African Americans just hadn't been before, and was an unapologetic activist for the rights of African American people when he, quite frankly, didn't have to.
but Tom, growing up, I remember Harry Belafonte more for his acting than his singing. But I've lately come to appreciate him as a artist and a musician and a singer. Great voice. But yes, parents immigrated here looking for a better life, and as Harry Belafonte said himself, what they found was hell once they got here. But they stayed. He made the best of it, and yes, those early years shaped who he was and his politics, and he fought for civil rights quite vocally, and normally speaking out like that, Tom, being an outspoken critic of this country could lead to your death, early death, especially back in that time during the '60s when outspoken civil rights leaders, all somehow found themselves dead. But he survived. He was a great hero, American hero, and so we should all just take a moment to honor the late great Harry Belafonte.
Yeah, absolutely, Jimmy. And, kind of getting to your point with his acting expertise, I don't know, for those of you out there who may be around for a little while, may have watched, I think it was Let's Do It Again with Bill Cosby and Sidney Poitier.
Yeah.
And Harry Belafonte played a mob boss.
Yes.
Pretty entertaining. So, again, we want to honor and celebrate the legacy and the contributions of the late Harry Belafonte, send our prayers to his family. He has lived a long life, many lives, and has been a great, great star in American history and culture.
Okay, and then we have two more segments, Tom. We can go over to talk about the follow up on Haiti, and then our last segment for this part of the show is going to be our men tip, Black Men Speak Men tip. So let's get to Haiti, Tom. What's going on with Haiti?
Well, we've been covering Haiti for some time now. Of course, what we are aware of is that their president was mysteriously murdered by some mercenaries in 2021, and since then,
Tom, not mysterious, but let's just get to the facts. America took him out. I don't know why, but for some reason, it was important to get him pushed aside. So
absolutely. Well, when our leaders begin to fight for their own people, unfortunately, they end up disappearing or dying.
yes,
The country has been in turmoil since then. Gangs have pretty much taken over the country, taken over the capital. But recently I just saw an article that I thought was pretty interesting, Jimmy. Over a dozen of these suspected gang members were taken out by citizens
yes.
who just got tired of being exploited.
Well, we got a clip on that, Tom. Let's play that and let's pick it up on the back side of the video.
There we go.
Half a dozen bodies being burned on the streets of Haiti's capital, victims of vigilante justice. Supposed gang members killed in broad daylight and then set on fire by residents, according to witnesses. Those who live in the neighborhood ready to fight back.
If the gangs come to invade us, we will defend ourselves. We have our own weapons. We have our machetes. We will take their weapons. We will not run away. Mothers who want to protect their children can send them elsewhere.
The violence had started in the early hours of the morning when criminal gangs burst into several homes and attacked residents. Hours later, police stopped and searched a minibus supposedly containing several gang members. According to officials, a mob saw this as a chance for revenge.
During a search of a minibus in which there were armed individuals, the police confiscated weapons and other equipment. In addition, more than a dozen individuals traveling in this vehicle were unfortunately lynched by members of the population.
The violence underlines the increasingly lawless situation in Port-au-Prince. Criminal gangs have taken control over an estimated 60% of the city since the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse nearly 2 years ago. On Monday, United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres called for the deployment of an international armed force to Haiti in a desperate attempt to temper the escalating violence. It comes as a UN report highlighted the surge in murders and kidnappings in the country, with special emphasis on Cité Soleil, an area of the capital that has become besieged by gangs who are blocking access in and out. Locals terrorized by the violence are afraid to venture out of their homes.
And so, as in the words of the old Star Wars movie trilogy, the community strikes back.
Well, Tom, that's one way to send a message. We have bodies burning in the street. My question is, since the police has stopped the minivan, confiscated the weapons, it doesn't seem like they were very much interested in protecting these people from the community.
I would agree, Jimmy. It's a bad state of affairs. The U.S. And or other countries that have some military power obviously have very little interest in trying to support the citizens, except for the degree to which they can exploit them for any natural resources that they may have in order to enrich their countries. The Canadians have, by the way of Trudeau, made a couple of statements, but nothing significant thus far. So we will continue to keep everybody update on this, but I thought this was an interesting update.
Very interesting story, Tom, and it's good to see people fighting back and hopefully the international community comes to the rescue and will send, generally UN peacekeepers don't really do a very good job of keeping the peace, but hopefully Western nations will step up and send troops to help stabilize the country so they have a chance to rebuild and get a foothold on restoring life to some normalcy, whatever that could be. With that being said, Tom, let's get to our last portion of this segment, which is our Black Men Speak Men Tips. Actually, a couple of viewers asked that we ask for this, so we're trying to accommodate our watchers. So, Tom, our tip for this segment, for this show, is going to be self-reflection. That in life, you need to be able to get reflection from other people. Sometimes people call that being hated on, but positive criticism, feedback from your employer, from your significant other, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, or just a person who's in your life, children, your siblings, a mother, father, brother. Sometimes you need feedback to determine what kind of person you are and how good a job or lack thereof of a person, a quality person that you're being. And sometimes the way we look at our life is not how others always look at our life. So sometimes getting feedback from others is always good. And as a personal story, Tom, I can tell you, when my weight ballooned up to 365, nobody around me told me that, hey, I'd become fat. When I looked in the mirror, I saw something totally different. So, um, and so I think maybe I would have taken some precautions to get things on the right track before I ended up in the hospital near death. If some of the people around me had been brave enough to just tell me the truth, that I had become too fat.
Well, Jimmy, that means that you got to get out and be around people. I'm really still at the house most of the time.
Oh
You
man,
got to get out and be around people.
you have to have money to get out the house, Tom, and I'm
No, you
still
don't.
working on trying to get
All
some.
you have to do is have a door, Jimmy, just a door. With that
Uh,
being said, I think that was great, and I think that requires some humility to be able to receive constructive
yes.
criticism. But let's go ahead and move to our main topic for the day. We'd like to welcome and introduce, someone that I've known for a long time and who I've admired greatly, the great Mr. Kenneth Johnson, who is a district manager at the Social Security Administration. I've known this gentleman for a very long time, very wise, and I had forgotten the nature of what he did, and I saw him at a workshop a few weeks back at a conference, and I was like, we have got to bring this to our community and to our viewers, because some of the stuff that he was sharing, even with guys that were several years his senior, they were just wowed by some of the things that they learned that they just assumed but didn't really understand. So welcome, Brother Johnson. We appreciate you joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Yes, definitely
Thank you very
appreciate
much.
it.
And so, folks, what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about Social Security, how it works, a little bit about why it was created, and hopefully for those of you who are out there, answer some of your questions. You can chat your questions or comments on that. And I believe, Jim, we also have a call-in number. Hopefully that is
Yeah,
working.
this supposed to call in number.
Exactly.
Hey everyone, call the number early. Do not wait till the last 2 minutes of the show to call the number. So let's post a call in number, Tom.
Good deal. All right, let's see if we can find this here. And so this is our call-in number for anyone who likes to call in, or you can chat those questions in as well if you would like. So, Brother Johnson, tell us a little bit about Social Security, what it is for folks who may have no idea, and why it was created in the brief fashion, so we can really get to the questions people want to hear.
In short, Social Security was created as a way to protect American workers from being left totally destitute during the Depression years upon reaching retirement. So in 1935, President Roosevelt signed the act and people began getting paid. And it's still in place today, and the rules for calculating the benefits are pretty much the same. It's based on your earnings and your contributions to taxes.
Good deal. And I appreciate that abbreviated history of what the program is about. Who exactly is eligible for Social Security? Because not everybody can get it, right?
That's right. Everybody, we generally try to explain that retirement benefits are available to any worker who is paying into FICA, that big FICA that everybody is so scared of. And those workers who are paying into that system and are age 62, and if you paid in, you have enough quarters, you can get the benefit. Each record of entitlement is calculated differently, and your status as a worker is at the time of your entitlement, at the time you are interested in filing, is determined for you when you make your application.
Gotcha. And before we start digging into these questions, as we had mentioned earlier, of course, if you haven't, make sure that you subscribe, make sure that you like, and provide plenty of content. We'd like to acknowledge a couple of folks that I see on the chat line right now. Miss Elisa, thank you for joining us, counselor. Mr. Marvin Jones, we want to thank you for coming back. I think you were here last week with us. We want to thank you for joining us tonight. Brother Frederick V. Roberts, Esquire, out of the Prairie View A&M University area. Brother Asar, Uncle Asar Al-Kabilan out of Austin area. We want to thank you for joining us this evening. But folks, feel free to join us tonight. Also, we got Brother Ed Gray, the commish from the Commish Radio Show, has joined us tonight out of the Dallas-Fort Worth area as well. We want to, of course, encourage people to check out his show as well, where you can find him on Facebook. So let's kind of dig a little bit deeper into this. Tell us a little bit about Social Security and how it works. I mean, from my understanding, you have to work so much, get so many credits, and then there's a certain age that you become eligible for a little money, and then another age you're eligible for a little bit more. How does all that work? Let's help demystify.
You know, one of the things that happens when you're seeking to understand Social Security is you got to remember Social Security entitlements are based on category. So if you are seeking retirement, then they're going to tell you that you have to be fully insured, meaning that you need 40 quarters. A quarter is determined each year by Congress. They set a dollar figure. And if you've worked, let's say the quarter is $1,000 a quarter, and you've worked and made $4,000, then you have 4 quarters for that year. And insured status is measured by that. So if you have 40 quarters and you're retirement age, you can draw benefits. Again, if you are a spouse and you are married to someone who is a worker who is insured and that individual retires, then if you meet the retirement age, are not working, and do not have another program on which you can draw benefits, you may be eligible as well. If that worker has a minor child, a dependent disabled child, then they may also be payable on the record. Okay. So entitlements in SSA vary according to your circumstance. So, you know, we can talk about that is true in every situation. So we generally encourage you to build what we call a My SSA Social Security account at www.socialsecurity.gov. Notice that commercial. And you can get in there and look at your own personal private record and figure out what you're entitled to.
Did you repeat that website again?
It's www.socialsecurity.gov.
No, the My SSA.
Yeah, the My SSA is just one of the features that you see when you get to the website. It'll ask you to create that account. It's a way for you to access your personal earnings record behind the firewall so that you can actually be getting the information from your actual record. You can use the website and get an estimate, but you won't actually be looking at your true earnings.
So go to www.socialsecurity.gov, and then you have to go to My SSA.
Yes, you have to ask for it'll ask you, one of the questions it'll ask you is, you want to build a My SSA account.
Okay. And what all does that do for you, and how do you manage that over time?
The My SSA account is one of, I think, the best inventions the agency created for the American public to be able to access, verify, and validate the information about your earnings. And the intent is that you can monitor to make sure that your earnings from all of your jobs show up. You do know that for many years, employers reported manually by sending in a paper report. If they misspelled your name or transposed the Social Security number, you didn't get earnings posted to your record. So they started sending you out this green and white statement that you could look, and people got them in the mail and said, oh, what is this for? It was intended for you to evaluate the history of your earnings and be sure that all of the work that you have worked and contributed was present, so that when the estimate and calculation of your benefits was done, you got credit for your record. Well, my SSA comes into your home now. You don't have to wait until 3 months before your birthday when to get the document when you're close to 65. You can actually go in, and you should, even at an early age, be monitoring your earnings file. And we encourage that because many times you think that the employer has reported your earnings, but could have had a glitch with their filing of their tax report, and your earnings didn't get posted. You don't miss it because you aren't looking. And then when you get to be retirement age, hey, it's missing, and now the employee is gone, and you can't have those earnings, and you lose payment. So the MySSA account is one, a protection to you, the worker, so you know what you actually have, and two, it blocks other people from getting access to your file, and it puts your data behind the firewall, and it's a security measure, but it gives you the ability to go in, file for benefits, file for replacement Social Security card, get a new Medicare card, you can get a verification of your earnings, a 1099, all the great things that you might need. You can get it at your fingertip in your home.
So, Brother Johnson, we have some questions starting to pour in. So let's
Yeah,
see if we can tackle some of those before we get too far behind.
right. So we have Monsieur Noor, who has submitted a couple of questions. He says, what is the difference between 62 and FRA?
Age 62 is the earliest age at which you can draw retirement benefits. FRA is full retirement age, and full retirement age is now age 67. And so the difference is age 62 is the earliest point at which you can draw. Full retirement age is it's gradually moving to age 67. And so right now you're in that transition year until we get to 67. But full retirement age is just I'm born in 1958, and I believe my year is age 66 and 8 months.
Gotcha.
So it'll gradually change.
Okay. Second question, what's the difference between SSI and SSDI?
SSDI is just a formal name for Social Security Disability Insurance. It is a program that's based strictly on your earnings, where you have worked 5 out of the last 10 years. The SSI is Supplemental Security Income, and it's a needs-based program available to individuals according to their scaled income. It is a needs-based program, and at this point, the highest payable rate on that record is $914, but it is only payable at that rate after consideration of your income and resource.
Okay, good deal, good feedback. And let me see, next question. We have a couple more questions. What happens to SSDI if someone is using SSDI? What happens after they turn age 65?
Absolutely nothing. Most people will say, the literature basically tells you that, when you turn 65, you become retirement age, and we convert your benefits from the trust fund for disability to retirement. But the rate doesn't change. Remember, disability is a program that pays you at the point that you are unable to work. That's the catastrophic onset of retirement. So they pay you at the higher rate. And when you get to the retirement age, they just switch the form, but the money looks the same. You'll never notice a difference.
Okay, good deal. And I think the last question from Monsieur Noor is, if I leave the U.S. for more than 30 days, do I have to notify SSA?
SSA benefits are not conditional upon your presence in America. If you are getting supplemental security income or SSI, then yes, you will lose your entitlement if you're gone from the country more than 30 days. And then when you return, you'll have to wait 30 days after you've been in the country again before they can resume. But remember, they are two different programs, and they are based on two different eligibility criteria. SSDI, or retirement, is based on your contributions. SSI is a needs-based program, and it's determined according to 5 eligibility factors. Are you either age 65, blind or disabled? Are you a resident? Are you a citizen? And do you have the available income and resource limit? So it's different. So that's why you have that question come up all the time. Can you go out of the country?
Okay, and let's give a shout out, Tom, to Pastor Aaron Lewis, and we didn't give a chance to congratulate him on his new church recently in the last.
Congratulations.
So yeah, big congratulations to Pastor Aaron Lewis and his new church. And Aaron has been a guest on the show a couple of times
Yes,
also.
yeah. In addition, we'd like to welcome JW, our fraternity brother, John Williams, the great John Williams, CPA, who is also
CPA John. Yeah, I remember John. Yes,
Exactly.
it's been a while.
We told him we're gonna have him back after tax season's over with, so we're gonna give him a little time to decompress from tax season, the tax season deadline, and then we're gonna have him back on our show. We want to welcome Miss Tyra J. We want to thank you for joining us this evening as well. Again, we're encouraging everybody to text in your questions to the chat line. You can give us a call if you'd like, and let me put up that number again just in case. Give me a second here. There we go. So again, text your questions, call in your questions. And then, of course, Bill Nicholson. It's good to have you, Bill. It's been a while since.
We just saw him a few weeks ago now, get together.
Exactly. So we want to thank Bill for joining us. And then Karen Mack. Wow. It's great to have you on here as well. So let's go ahead and go to the show, go back to our questions. And again, anyone who wants to have any questions answered, there are no bad questions. Chat your question in or give us a call. Okay, let's kind of move forward. Can someone who has never worked before possibly get Social Security?
Yes. Social Security, again, under the design of the program, you may be paid as the spouse of a worker who has contributed to the program. So a couple marries, one stays home and provides for the children in the home. When the worker reaches retirement age, then that spouse is eligible to be paid. It's also an important thing to remember that if a worker and his spouse divorced, then the divorced spouse is still entitled on the record of the worker when they reach age 62.
Wait a minute, back up. Repeat that again now.
I'm not sure. Yes, okay. A couple who divorces, the divorced spouse is still remaining eligible if they have been married 10 years and the worker is age 62 and the individual is age 62. They may file and receive under what they call independently divorced spouses benefits. And so, yes, if you're gonna get hitched, stay 10 years.
Okay.
So if someone gets married, let's say in their early 20s, 22, 23, just getting out of school, and they get married 10 years and they get a divorce and they get married to someone else, not only is the wife the second wife, if they reach that age, 62 years old, both of them assuming, not only is the wife eligible for Social Security benefits off of the spouse, and it could flip the other way, but the ex-spouse could also be eligible. So you have the current and the former spouse getting benefits from the same person.
Yes. And you need to be sure you recognize that, since the law changed, a spouse is not gender-based. So it's just a question of whether or not you meet the marriage criteria and that worker is insured. And yes, a spouse may draw off for either spouse. It depends on what your situation is. Many times, let's just say in the more traditional family, the wife is the worker who is the person who stays home. But now, in many cases, the husband stays home. and he too may draw. That's why it's called spouse's benefits.
So if you have a house husband and he's married to a wife who is the breadwinner, then he could file. And if he was married to someone a while ago, at least 10 years, and he gets to be age 62, and she marries somebody else, then he can file as well.
Yes, always remember that the law says if you marry and you and your spouse stay together 10 years, and then unfortunately you divorce, that does not sever your eligibility to spousal payments on that worker's record. Now, whether or not you get it is conditioned upon where you are at the age that you are, and what your income situation is. If you out making $1 million and you're working, you're 62, then you're still going to be subject to the earnings limit, which is a deeper conversation. But in theory, yes, Tommy, you may draw on your former spouse's record.
And there's another question that came up.
A couple more questions that just came in. Yes.
Is the ex-spouse eligible to receive the same amount as the current spouse?
Yes.
Okay, so they receive pretty much, I think it's up to 50%.
But generally, but it's also important to remember that multiple spouses may draw without a reduction to either spouse or a reduction to the wage earner. So if the worker is getting, let's just use for ease, say the worker is getting $1,000, then they may pay each spouse $500, but it doesn't reduce the benefit of either person.
So what you're trying to tell me is if someone got married very early and they got married 3 times and got divorced after 11 years with 3 different women or 3 different men for that matter, that those 3 exes can all file on that same person?
Yes.
Okay, good to know.
Interesting.
How about Aaron's question? I guess that deals with a person who's not reached retirement age and have suffered an injury that prevents them from working.
That's what the disability SSDI program is for. And if that worker suffers an injury, it's important to remember these things. Social Security is intended to be a long-term program. It does not pay temporary benefits. So in order for an individual to meet eligibility requirements for disability, they must have a condition that lasts 12 months or is so severe it can result in death. And if that is the circumstance, then that worker may apply for Social Security disability. The process varies in time. And there are also now new rules that let us pay the person sooner if they suffer from a critical condition. So doesn't ever eliminate the 5-month waiting period unless there is a Lou Gehrig's disease. But other than that, you can actually draw if you meet that eligibility criteria. But in that instance, you must have worked and paid FICA 5 out of the last 10 years.
Okay. And I have one more question concerning young people. Before the age of consent or teenagers who collect SSI for learning disabilities or I guess some kind of mental disability. How does that work exactly? Because I know a couple of kids, their parents tell them they're getting SSI because they can't read or they can't go to school. And it just seems counterproductive to me, but to pay someone not to learn.
No, the agency does not pay you not to learn. In fact, there's a thing they call Plan to Achieve Self-Support, which encourages the disabled individual that if you are interested in pursuing education, you can write a plan to achieve self-support, and they will in fact assist you to the degree that there's possible. The Texas Rehabilitation Services will work with you, and there are specialists out there who can help you do that. But would
that mean giving up your benefit though? If you're collecting a benefit?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Not necessarily. But it's important to remember disabled benefits for children are paid because that child has a medical condition. We don't pay you unless you meet the medical criteria. And so a stringent medical determination is made for every individual who is receiving disability. And those children are able to go to school, they are able to go to college. The fact that you may be differently abled is not a detriment to your ability to learn.
Okay.
All right. There are a couple of other questions here that we're going to get to. We have getting some great questions. I'm actually going to combine this one because Bill has asked a question, talk about FRA versus delayed. And then we have Marvin who's asked a question that's kind of similar. When should I file? Obviously, there's early retirement, there's full retirement, there's delayed retirement. So there's a question, when should I file?
Yeah, we may not all live at 67 or 70 or whatever the age is.
And you talked about this during the workshop, which I think was very poignant.
Okay. An individual must remember that starting off from the get, Social Security is not designed to replace 100% of your earnings. It's only designed as we know it to approximately cover 1/3 of your earnings potential. So when you get ready to decide whether or not you're going to retire, you know that the law says that you become eligible to draw on your record at age 62, subject to the annual earnings limit that they provide. Every year, Congress votes on that, and they tell you, well, if you're under full retirement age, this year it's just a little over $20,000. You can work, and if you work below this limit, we'll pay you 12 checks during the year. What will be the determining factor for you, whether you draw early, whether you draw at full retirement age, or even if you delay it and receive what they call delayed earnings credits, will depend on your financial stability and what you believe is to your advantage. As a lay worker, we are not allowed to tell you, well, it's to your advantage to do this or to do that. But it's essential for you to remember, we only pay you for the period of time that you live. So
Okay.
if the brother has said, well, we may not all live to 67, but here's another factor that we don't really get into at SSA that I'm going to throw in as a bonus. You have to be sure that your debt ratio and your income ratio is in line, because you know that SSA isn't going to cover
100% of your
So
expenses.
we teach people to remember in our seminars, we try to remind people retirement should be based on your savings, your investments, and Social Security. And so you need to know that. So whether or not you draw at 62, whether or not you draw at full retirement age, whether you draw at 70 is going to be very important for you to remember. There's even going to be a provision that in the case that a couple has married and they meet the eligibility criteria and a spouse passes away, that unfortunate situation, the surviving spouse then may elect to draw on the late person's record, okay, and draw their benefit until they reach age 70 and then switch over at their age 70 to their own record. If they do that, between the time that they reach full retirement age and 70, they can earn right now up to approximately 8% for every year that they delay. So you'll hear many advisors tell you, well, you can increase the likelihood your monthly benefit according to when you draw. All of that is true, but you also have to remember we're only going to pay you that if you're here.
All right. That's a chance.
There are a couple of other questions on here. And before I get to those, we want to welcome Miss Adrian and Miss Carol to the chat line. We want to thank you, of course, for supporting us. All right. We have another question from Monsieur Nero. What are the medical requirements for SSDI? It usually takes 18 to 24 months to get SSDI. You can't work during the qualifying period, correct?
Okay. Now, the medical eligibility determination that you are asking about, I am not able to tell you that. That is made by a medical professional. It is made in the state of Texas at the Disability Determination Services or Texas Rehabilitation in Austin. And those medical experts consider your medical condition. And it's also important for you to remember this. when you apply for disability, SSA will ask you to complete a medical report. And then it will say, tell us about what doctor you saw, what hospital you visited, what clinic you visited, what treatment did they give you. And then the experts will seek the medical evidence from those individuals about your pertinent record. They offer to pay that person to share their electronic record. If they cannot secure the medical information from your actual provider, then they will go out and do what they recall a consultative exam. And they'll hire a professional at a reduced rate to see you in order to get actual medical evidence. So the evidentiary requirement for disability has something to do with the nature of your medical condition, but they also weigh your educational level and the likelihood of you to be able to be rehabilitated after your particular onset of disability. So it's a lot that goes into it, but as a lay law person who adjusts and answers general entitlement questions, I'm not qualified to tell you the medical requirement.
Gotcha. I appreciate that. And this is great information. We're getting great big feedback from our community out there. I want to go back to something that you had shared with us. And I think this is very relevant to our community. In the case where you have a grandmother who may be taking care of their grandchild because for whatever reason the parent or parents are not able or willing to take care of them.
A lot of that is happening.
Exactly. That is, I don't want to say it's the norm, but there is a lot of grandparents out there taking
A lot of big mamas raising kids.
Tell us about potential areas of benefit for that child, because we do understand that if someone is a dependent and they have someone who is deceased, then they get some eligibility. But if certain things don't happen, they could possibly get some type of benefit that they may miss out on if the grandparents don't know what they are eligible for, the young person that they're taking care of.
One of the programs, the factors of eligibility that happen particularly in our community, and it's a generalization to say so, but because it happens in all communities. So the law provides that we can provide dependent payments for children that you adopt.
Okay.
So a grandparent may be caring for, say, their mother may be unable to care for them for various reasons. And they're saying, well, okay, I can go out and I can request an entitlement program through the state and they can get assistance. But if the grandparent that's caring for them is able to adopt the child, then the month after the child is adopted, it becomes the adopted child of the worker or the grandparent, and that child may draw as a dependent on that grandmother's or grandparent's record. That is often an overlooked category. It does require that you have the consent of if the living parent is there. You do have to have their consent, but that's a legal issue. You work that out with your lawyer. But if you manage to adopt the child, then we can pay that child. In our community, again, stepping away from the role of SSA, that often is an emotional issue because we say, well, I don't want him not to know his mother, or I don't want him to know his father. Don't mix that with a business decision. It's just so we encourage you to weigh that, but that's a personal family issue. But the law does provide that if you do adopt that child, you can receive that child can receive on your record.
And if you're fighting for the best interest of the child, that may be the best course, like you said, to put the emotions aside and think about what's the best overall situation to take care of the child.
Now I have to add, please remember, when you go to the Social Security office, we will not, as employees, we are not allowed to engage into those eligibility issues unless you inquire.
Okay.
Remember, we cannot give you coaching on what you should do in your personal family situation. So one of the things I encourage you to do on that same website at www.socialsecurity.gov, you can look up a pamphlet that is entitled understanding benefits. You can look up who's eligible to draw on benefits for my record. You can look up children's entitlement categories. All of that is there for you. And then
Okay.
if you just have general questions, you can always call the 1-800 number at 1-800-772-1213 and pose your questions.
And Tom, let's put the website up again. And once you get to the website, let's tell the people where to go. Okay. And there's the URL for the website. And once you get there, it was it my Social Security benefits or my
You can, it's my SSA. There'll be a place
my
on there.
SSA? Okay.
Yeah, they change it every so often. I say somebody is being creative, and you get these beautiful new images. I used to have the site memorized and tell you what color, what corner to go to, but you don't have to do that. You can just go to the website and review. I'm going to open up the website on my other computer here and see if I can navigate for you where you want to be.
Okay.
And as far as, let me see, there's a question from Carol dealing with how much additional income can you make if you receive Social Security?
Okay. Depending on your age, if you're full retirement age or older, there is no limit.
No limit?
No limit. If
Oh, man, okay.
If you're full retirement age. However, if you're less than full retirement age, there is a limit. I believe the limit for 2023 is just a little over $20,000. And then if you make over that limit, it's $1 for every two that will be used to decide how many checks per year to give you. The issue that has to be is that the agency wants to know that if you are drawing retirement, that you're working within the established limits that Congress writes. We don't get to waive that or negotiate with you. It's just whatever Congress tells you.
So let me make sure that I got this right. Are you saying that if you've reached legal age for Social Security, that you can make any amount of money, or did I miss that without an impact?
The full retirement age.
Full retirement.
Full retirement age.
Yes, whatever that is.
So after FRA, which depending on, let's say in our age range is 67, then it doesn't matter how much money you make. It's not going to impact how much money you get from your Social Security benefit. It will not be impacted at all.
That's good to know.
Well, it doesn't reduce the number of checks you're eligible to receive.
No, I'm talking about
full retirement age just says, we always say in layman's term when I'm explaining to people, you can get all your money from your salary plus your Social Security check.
Okay.
And so it does not reduce or any way erode what you're getting from your Social Security benefit after you reach full retirement age.
That's right. That's
okay.
Right. One of the things that, and you know that there's a political reason for that, and I won't try to get into it because it'll raise a lot of questions, but be sure you know that that's a provision that they wrote to allow workers to continue to be gainfully employed and strengthen the Social Security general earnings data, a pool of money. So it's a positive.
Another question from our chat line. If one takes Social Security at 70 as opposed to the full retirement age, what are the additional benefits? Obviously, I think you get more money, but
I think you said 8% a year past full retirement?
From between full retirement age and 70, they'll give you approximately 1/12 of the money per month, but approximately 8% per year extra for the worker and the worker only. So you can get an increased benefit. You can go in, and if you look at your green and white page, or if you open up your My SSA account and you look at the estimate, it will give you a rate of pay for age 62. Then it will give, or wherever you are at the age category, it'll give you full retirement age, and then it'll project for you what your age 70 rate would be. So you can make an informed decision. Now, if you're looking at the SSA website, today it is a blue and white page, and the first thing you see, which you know is an SSA legitimate site, is the eagle, and it'll say Social Security. Then it talks about securing your today and tomorrow, prepare, apply. Then you'll see manage benefits. And once you go past that, you'll see the third structure there says my Social Security account. Use your account to access many of our personalized online services. That is where you're going to go and build your MySSA. Today, you may do so by simply providing your driver's license information, and you can get in. It used to be a little more challenging because you had to know your credit bureau information. So encourage you at every age that you work, you have to be 18, but you need to be knowing every day, friends, exactly what's on your record, what you're doing. And even listen to this. This is more morbid, but it's also very real. You can know what your survival rate for your spouse will be.
Okay.
So as you're planning for that transition, where we all gonna go, you can know, well, if something happens to me today, this is about how much money you're going to be getting. You can even know that if something happens to you today, and I have a child who is under the age of 18 and eligible on my record simply as my child, then this is how much they receive. You
And
can
that child will receive that benefit until what age, that child?
Children can receive benefits until age 18, just based on relationship. Students who between the age of 18 and 19 may continue to receive those benefits through the age of 19 or the month of graduation, whichever comes earlier. But children who become disabled before age 22 may continue to receive that benefit for life. Many parents worry when they have children with disabilities and say, well, who's going to care for my baby when I'm gone? Well, your work and your earning contributions can provide for that child.
Okay, we have one last question, and we're kind of getting short on time. It has to do with is the benefit based on fund availability, or do you get the benefit for life? It's just regular SSI, Social Security.
Regular
benefits.
Social Security is paid to you once you file and apply. If you're drawing traditional Social Security, it's paid until you pass away.
This bigs up our resident expert CPA brought a very good point in. Just a little tax information. You may have to pay income tax on up to 50% of your benefits if your income is between $25,000 and $34,000, or up to 85% of your benefit if your income is greater than $34,000.
And always remember, thank you, IRS. Actually, John, thank you. Taxable benefits are an IRS ruling, but the thing that we can do for you, if you fall into that category, when you're making a plan, that's very important why we do that. We recommend you make a plan. If you know that you're going to fall into this category based on the other earnings that you have, you may give what we call voluntary tax withholdings. And you can estimate, well, I'm going to give 7%, 10%, 20%. And those benefits will be withheld and it'll apply towards your tax bill.
Gotcha.
Oh man, okay, that's so important to know. I thought if you made $34,000 a year, you were legally poor in this country and didn't pay no taxes. But that's why you consult a tax attorney.
I can't. Yeah, well, that's why you have IRS, and we're totally different entities.
Well,
Okay,
Jimmy, somehow
we're almost out of time, so
Yes.
we may have time for one more question if somebody wants to get one in before we close the show out.
Yeah, Gabe, got one question. If Social Security is your only source of income, one can follow those rules and not pay taxes. And that's a statement, correct question?
That's a statement, and that would be true. But the resident accountant who prepares taxes can affirm that.
Yes.
Gotcha. Good deal. Man, this has been a awesome show. A lot of great information.
And a lot of great questions. I knew it was going to happen. People have been inquiring about this show for weeks now. Ever since we made the announcement a few weeks ago that you were coming. So
what we will
always
do
remember
is
that
provide the 1-800 number as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can get this information. It's available to you. If you go to www.socialsecurity.gov, everything we've talked about, every question that you've asked, you can key it into the question search mode and they will give you back the information.
Okay.
You can always use the pamphlets. It's a good way. You can go in and look for the pamphlet and it'll say what every woman should know, which talks to spouses about what their benefits are. Just benefits for children, who can draw on my record, how does work affect my benefits, how does work affect my disability benefits, on and on and on. Every question you want to know is available to you automatically online, but you do need to get comfortable with the website. Don't become intimidated by it. You can navigate it. We encourage you to do that. It's available at night, in the morning, whenever it's convenient for you.
And there is one question Ms. Curley asked about the eligible age, the full eligible age for full retirement. Depending on your age, in our category, Jimmy, is 67, early retirement is 62, and then obviously late, I believe, is what age?
It seems to keep sneaking these increases in because it seemed like 65 is what I last remembered, and now y'all telling me 67.
Well, okay. It depends on when you were born.
64.
Yeah. If you were born, here's the chart. I have it up. If you were born 1960 or later, full retirement age is 67 years of age.
Ouch.
If you were born in 1959, it's 66, age 66 plus 10 months. If you were born in 1958, it's 66 plus 8 months. If you were born in 1957, it's 66 plus 6 months. 56, 66 plus 4 months. And 55, 66 plus 2 months. But if you were born between 1943 and 1954, full retirement age is 66.
Okay, I got a ways to go then. All right. I thought I was going to get out the rat race a little early, but I guess I got to keep working.
Well, hey, this has been a great show. We appreciate your time and your insight. We've gotten great questions and great feedback. And Brother Johnson, we appreciate you. Hopefully we'll have an opportunity to have you back again sometime in the future.
Always, anytime, and glad to share.
Yeah, thank you so much. With that being said, we'll see everyone next week. Same time, same channel.
Good evening, everyone.